My husband has this best friend, Anna. They've been friends for a long time and dated years ago, mutually deciding that it's best for them to remain friends. I've had no problem with this relationship until now. On the day that I gave birth, Anna's brother got into a car accident. My husband got a call from her in the middle of the night and asked him if he could drop her at the hospital her brother was at, an hour away from us, since she was too scared to drive. My husband agreed, told me quickly, while I was half asleep, and rushed out. A few hours later, I had contractions and called my husband. He didn't pick up after multiple tries, so I gave up and called my dad, who drove me to the local hospital, 12 minutes away. I was so scared of giving birth alone since I've had about 3 miscarriages and 1 stillborn. My husband promised me that no matter what, he'd be there for me. Guess what? He wasn't. We called multiple times while I was in labor, and when he finally picked up my dad's call, when I was giving birth, saying that he'd misplaced his phone in the chaos, my dad informed him that, no matter how fast he drives anymore, he's going to miss the birth of his child. Well, my husband took that as he's already screwed up, so it doesn't matter when he shows up at this point. So when he finally came, our daughter was about 5 hours old, and I'd already moved to the maternity ward. When he came, I refused to let him see our baby. Did let husband hold and play with baby after discharge, because I was so high on emotions and was shaking when I saw him and didn't want it negatively affect my time with the baby. I wanted her birth to be a happy time, and I was already struggling to feed her. My husband was in a bad state and told me to please let him see her, so I told him to stand by the window and held the baby up so he could see her. I told him to then leave and he'll be allowed to interact with the baby at my father's home when we're both well and out of the hospital, and that I was most likely divorcing him. He started bawling and apologizing and defended himself by saying that Anna's brother was in serious critical condition, and although he's fine, Anna needed him. Though Anna's parents were there, she's not that close with them and she was in an unbearable state. I told him that I didn't care and that his daughter has already come second to him and all she did was be born. I'm putting my daughters and my health first and won't let her be sidelined. My husband agreed and left. However, Anna called me later and said that I was being controlling and she'd never met someone as cruel as me for not letting a father see his baby. I told her that my husband made his decision and that this was his doing, not mine. But now, I can't help feel cruel in my actions and feel like I'm depriving my baby of both her parents being together. My husband sees her a few hours each day now. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. All these excuses about his phone totally missed the point. He shouldn't have been running off to support Anna at all. She was supposed to be there to support her parents and brother. She didn't need your husband to support her. You had already suffered 3 miscarriages and your husband chose to prioritize Anna's over his actual wife. And then he decided that his screwing up by not being there for you was an excuse to just stay with Anna. Not the idiot. Lines that stick out to me: he's already screwed up, so it doesn't matter, so he knew you were in the process of giving birth and didn't come to see you or his baby. Anna needed him, you needed him. He knew her brother was okay and still chose to not come be with you. You've had 3 miscarriages and a freaking stillborn. You and your baby are his family. You should be his first priority. Anna's also a massive idiot for calling you and saying that to you. She needs to butt out. Not the idiot. Your husband might not have known that you would deliver your baby right then, but I am assuming that you were quite far along, so ready to deliver your child any moment, and that he knew about your traumatic experiences. Thus I think that he should always be reachable for you in these last stages of pregnancy in case something bad or the actual birth happens. Honestly, I think that you are doing the right thing. You show from the very beginning that nothing is more important than you and, especially, your child. My grandma died 2 years ago and I received about £200,000 when she died. I am 24, so I made the decision to use the money to pay off my student loans and put a decent deposit down on a house to bring down the cost of my mortgage. I didn't broadcast that I came into some wealth, but I vaguely mentioned to 2 close friends I got an inheritance. Well, one of them is missing a leg. He needed to replace his prosthesis last year. He managed to raise the cash but was still short of about £4,000. He is very proud, but I knew how badly he needed it and how he posted his leg in an accident that entirely wasn't his fault. I asked him if I gave him the money, would he accept it? He graciously accepted it, and seeing him so happy to get a new leg made me happy. He started immediately talking about paying me back, and I told him that he should consider it a gift as it was for something he genuinely needed. That was all fine, and it's never been mentioned about the money I gifted him until now. My other friend is currently planning her wedding for next summer. She has run into some financial difficulties but is still hellbent in keeping the expensive dream venue she wants and is short of a lot of money to pay off the fees for it. She mentioned she needs about £10,000 and her parents have refused. They said that it's her wedding and they told her to go somewhere cheaper cause she clearly can't afford it. She has now come to me begging for me to help her out and she has mentioned that it shouldn't be a problem as I gifted our friend money before. I refused. I said to her basically what her parents said regarding booking a cheaper venue and that it's not my responsibility to shell out for someone's wedding. I also used what I thought are valid points and said our friend had a legitimate need for some financial aid, I have a mortgage to pay, and that I'm saving my money. Well, she has called me an entitled prick and an idiot for hoarding my money and ruining her dreams because she can't get the money unless someone helps her. Our friend with the prosthesis has said I am in the right as she has no right for my money, but I do feel I could help out at least a little bit, so I don't know. Not the idiot. Take it from someone who has some disposable income, I'm not rich. You are absolutely entitled to give money to one friend and not another, for whatever reason makes sense to you. By the way, it works out better for you if you don't give a reason to your friend for not giving her money. I just can't swing it this time. It's just impossible. I won't be able to help you. Repeat as necessary. If you give reasons, you give her ammunition to argue with you. Again, not the idiot. Not the idiot, your other friend is trying a one-time wedding, very expensive at that, well your other friend clearly had a need for a prosthetic leg who will have many uses for it on the long road. It is your money and clearly, you are able to spend it how you want. You are not entitled to give it anyone, unless you feel like it, which I would not give one dime to your other friend, especially now with how she treated you and guilt-tripped you after refusing. Not the idiot. Your friend needed the prosthetic, never asked for it, was gonna pay you the 4K back, and on top of that, if I'm reading correctly, couldn't have downgraded to make it cheaper. Your other friend has a want, asks you for 10K, and expects you to give it to her, even though she can downgrade to not need it the first place. It is your money, you don't owe anyone crap, and aren't doing anything to anyone. Your first friend understood that, and was appreciative. So, I, 33, have been married to my wife, 31, for 6 years. 2 years ago we adopted our 2 kids, 7 and 5, from Haiti. They were toddlers when we brought them home, so we had never really been through the newborn stage. Well, my wife and I decided to have a biological baby. She is currently 5 months old. Well, when she was born my wife decided she needed to make up for all the lost time she was pregnant, and in doing so kinda left all the childcare on me. My wife loves the baby and cuddles with her, but the second she starts crying my wife hands her over to me. She knows how to change a diaper, but she believes it isn't her job. It was never something we agreed upon, like some weird deal, where we agreed she would carry the baby for 9 months and I would raise it. We formula feed, which I prefer. But I can't leave her home alone with a baby. Basically yesterday I had to take my 7-year-old to a soccer game. I left my wife with the baby as she was just sleeping in her crib. My wife called me mid-game and screamed at me about leaving the baby with her. She said that she had pooped and I had to come back and clean it up. I asked if she knew how to change a diaper. She used to be a full-time nanny and she said yes, but it's not her job. I drove back home, changed the baby, and took her back to the soccer game. By the time I came back, there were only about 10 minutes left. One of the other moms told me that my daughter had been switched to center midfield and scored 3 times in a row and basically won for her team. I was so proud. When she was done she asked why the baby was here and I said I had to go pick her up. Then she asked if I had seen her, well she was center mid and I told her the truth. She was so upset and wouldn't talk to me. I of course didn't badmouth my wife to her. I offered to go get her ice cream, but she wasn't in the mood. When we got back home I heard her crying to my wife. I obviously don't mind her venting to my wife, but my wife was saying things like yeah, he shouldn't have done that and I'm so sorry he treated you like that, even though I told her on the phone that I was going to miss part of the game if I came and picked the baby up. My wife and I got in an argument later. I told her that she actually has to care for the baby and she basically called me selfish and lazy. We go to a marriage counselor. We don't have many problems in our marriage, but we had to do it for the adoption and we ended up sticking with it, as well as our own therapists. The marriage counselor has ruled out postpartum and she has suggested for my wife to do more with the baby, but she doesn't want to. Here's where I am definitely the idiot. She said, stop acting like you're my slave or something. I'm Haitian, black and she is white. I then snapped back, well you need to step up as a parent. I know I'm the idiot for saying that to her, but am I the idiot for genuinely thinking it? Not the idiot. It's both of your jobs. Whoever is with a baby, when she needs to be changed, is the one who should change her. That's called being a parent. Asking you to come home from your other daughter's soccer game was completely unreasonable. But subsequently throwing you under the bus to the same daughter is beyond the pale. Right now, your wife is being a crappy spouse to you and a crappy mother to all her children. This needs to stop. Not the idiot. And hate to break it to you, but you do have problems in the marriage. Giant ones. She's not fit to be a mother. You pander to her needs too much. She needs to step up and you need to toughen it a little when she screams and cries for you to come. This is a toxic environment for all 3 kids. I mean, she's basically a surrogate. All she did was carry the baby. Not the idiot. But you will be if you let this situation continue without putting your foot down. Not the idiot, because she does need to step up. The baby is both parents' daughter, so they both need to put the effort in. Your wife is just being lazy. Not only that, but she's low-key gaslighting your other daughter and villainizing you, even though you're doing your best to support your children, and she's doing what seems like absolutely nothing. I don't think you guys were ready for childbirth just yet, and it sounds like your wife is treating the baby as an accessory and doesn't want to deal with the hard part. Here we go. I have been in a group of friends, husbands, wives, kids, for almost 20 years. We started out as a neighborhood group and have grown bigger as our friendships have evolved, and most of us have moved out of the original subdivision. We are adults 40-50 years old. The men play golf most every weekend and one evening during the week. Holidays and birthdays are big get-togethers with sometimes 50 people. I am currently the only unmarried person in the group, divorced in 2011. This is the sticky part. About 7 or 8 months ago, one of the women in the group named Cindy started coming on to me. Well flattered, I would never do anything as I like her husband Mike and have known her kids since they were preschoolers. It seemed like a little harmless flirting at first, but then it moved into some very direct propositioning. She had her reasons for wanting to become lovely involved and put a mild bit of pressure on me to begin an affair with her. One of the ways she pressured me was to text me racy pics, and those soon moved to X-rated pics and videos. It really put me in an awkward spot, and I told her that. My response was that I found her attractive, but she was strictly off limits to me since she was married. Even if I didn't know her husband, I still would not have done anything. And I didn't. A few months ago, I found out that I had missed a few golf days and I just chalked it up to bad timing. Well, there was a huge 4th get-together, and I asked around about it, and it seemed no one would own up to me not being invited. Apparently, there have been other events that I didn't know about, and I wasn't invited there either. I finally got some answers last night when I ran into a friend and her daughter at the grocery store. She would barely look at me when I spoke to her, and her teenage daughter spilled the beans. Cindy was caught with the racy pics on her phone and confessed to Mike that I had put her up to it and was pressuring her to have an affair. Needless to say, I was stunned at this revelation. I thanked her for her honesty and went home and thought about it for a long time. I have saved every single text and pic. Last night I printed them all out. If I showed Mike 10% of what she said to me and what she sent to me, he might leave her. Meanwhile, I am pushed out of my friend group for doing what I thought was right. I told her at the beginning that this was heading down a road of hurt, but when she got to the painful part, she pushed me under the bus. Not the idiot mostly, because she lied about you, but be prepared for it not to change anything and for people to get mad at you. It screws, but it's a lot easier for Mike if he believes his wife, and despite the fact that you're telling the truth, there will be people who are willing to believe you purposely blew up their marriage. It's unfair, but this is why you shouldn't even entertain the idea of a flirtation with married person, especially not one in your social group. You're a bit of an idiot for letting it get as far as you did with his wife, which is another reason this will likely not end well for you. Everyone's the idiot here. This happened to me once, and I went straight to the aggrieved wife and shared her husband's inappropriate messages. Instead, you told the woman that you find her attractive and you'd hit that if it wasn't for her husband, then kept the secret. You missed your chance to do the right thing the first time, and now you're complicit and vulnerable to her controlling the narrative. You're like Ned Stark trying to keep Joffrey's parentage a secret. Everyone's the idiot here. You rejected her, so she's throwing you under the bus to get back at you. Show him everything she sent you. She made the bed herself, now she can lay in it. You don't deserve to be pushed out of your friend group because that disgusting person wants to freak around. I'd say definitely show it to her husband. Though what makes you an idiot is that you didn't rather outright when she sent the first pic. Just leaving it at that definitely wasn't right, and now you notice where it got you. Though, your friends also are idiots for not even asking you about it. This happened last year, so it's no longer a big issue, but it comes up from time to time. My wife has a terrible problem getting up in the morning. I mean, it's bad. I'd honestly rather have my teeth pulled than try and deal with her. I've spent years coaxing her out of bed, trying to be supportive and understanding, help her develop good habits, but over time, she said I developed into more of a parent. I didn't want that, so I backed off. She developed this really annoying habit of setting lots of really annoying alarms every couple minutes so that she is forced to wake up. But they don't work. She sleeps right through them. They wake me up and make my mornings absolutely miserable. I typically wake her up angrily, which I know I shouldn't, but it's loud, constant blaring first thing in the mornings, and it makes me insane. And it's a different alarm every day. She doesn't even hear it. I've tried reasoning with her, coming up with compromises, threatening to sleep in the guest bedroom, but nothing works. She says that I'm treating her like a child, and it makes her feel disrespected. I feel disrespected that I keep getting forcibly woken up, and she isn't making a change. One morning I saw her wake up, disable her alarms, and go right back to sleep. I had to wake her up so she wouldn't miss work. She didn't remember doing it. One morning, one of her hundreds of klaxons rang in my ear and scared me to death. I turned over and saw her groggily disabling her alarms and rolled back over and went back to sleep. That was the final straw. I did the exact same thing. About an hour goes by before her boss calls her asking where she is. Needless to say, she was livid with me when she got home. She said I should have just woken her up, but I held my ground and told her this cycle of behavior was done. Was I an idiot? No idiots here. My husband was a bit like with sleeping through alarms. When we met he would have like 5 or 6, to wake up still end up on relying on me then rushing ahead of me to get ready in time, maybe causing me to be late. I have the opposite problem where, if I have an alarm go off I find it very difficult to go back to sleep, especially if I have to get up soon, so I totally get the rage. I fixed the problem by basically making him take ownership of the issue. Not waking him, not letting him jump in the shower ahead of me. My mantra was not my problem. He soon learned. I'm going against the grain and saying no idiots here. I have to have 3 different alarms to get out of bed. I've got a CPAP machine. My wife and I have been together for over 9 years now, and it used to annoy her, but we've got a rhythm down now. If she's truly struggling that bad, have her set her phone far enough away that she has to get up and out of bed to turn it off. It'll still wake you up, but it won't be alarm after alarm after alarm, and she won't oversleep. This used to be me. I got a Lumi daylight alarm clock and set it to birdsong. Totally changed my life, as dramatic as that sounds. Not waking up to the anxiety-inducing sounds of traditional alarms plus the daylight lamp means a great start every morning. Been using it 2 years, an absolute game changer for winter, United Kingdom, as I need to get up in the pitch black to walk my dog. Oh, and not the idiot. I used to be such a moody twat until I took responsibility and invested in solving my problem.